My dear respected brothers, sisters, elders, youngsters, if we analyze the life of every human being, regardless of their faith, regardless of their background, regardless of their gender or their wealth, if they're poor or if they're wealthy, regardless of all of these different aspects of life that many people consider important, we will understand one thing very important, is the fact that every one of these individuals, every human being that lives on this very earth, that breathes on this very earth, goes to its own trials and tribulations. There isn't anyone sitting here today that can say with 100% fact that they have never been through any hardship in life. We've all had our equal share of hardships. Some of us struggle more than others. Some of us have bigger tests from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than others. And simply some of us feel like life is fairly easy for us, but yet we may consider our trials even deeper than other people. For example, a person can live with his mother and father, and then all of a sudden his parents got divorced, and he thinks that there's nothing worse in his life than the fact that his parents got divorced. He thinks he has the life worse compared to any human being out there. Whereas if you take another child who was born in a state that at a very young age he lost or she lost both parents, that person will think he or she has it the worst. So every human being out there in this world, regardless of faith, regardless of what ideology, what mentality, what background, or what field of study they've actually learned in this world, every one of us have our own unique share of experiences. Some harder than others. But the reality is that if we look at the normal, we look very normal on the outside. If I ask everyone sitting here today, from the outside, everyone looks very normal. But deep down inside, you only know that you're hurting. If you are hurting, and inshallah you're not. But deep down, only you know what's being cooked inside, and the difficulties that you face inside, and the hardships that you face on a daily basis. From the outside, it looks very normal. You meet the brother in salat, he says salam to you, he looks happy. From the outside, it looks great. You meet the sister on Jummah and she looks, mashallah, she's so happy. But deep down, he or she, they know what's hurting inside. And what ends up happening is, as this human being begins to develop these feelings inside, and they slowly begin to cook. And you will find many people out there, as they develop these harsh feelings inside, many people will suddenly burst. And then they will start screaming at home, and they will get upset, and they will do things that are inappropriate. And there are many people, they won't burst, but they're just habitual on bursting. There won't be a point that they will burst, but rather every day human beings are constantly angry, constantly upset, constantly have that negative nature in their life. And the more this human being develops these habits and starts to cook mentally inside, what ends up happening is that this human being, this believer, this person, he starts to analyze life in a form that it's extremely negative. Anything happens to him, negative thoughts. Even if good happens to him, he figures out a way of how to analyze life in a negative manner. He can have the best day of his entire life. Everything went really well. His son graduated from university. Things are looking really remarkable today. But then all of a sudden, he'll figure out a way, because that's how his mind is now constructed in a format that everything has to be negative. If it's not negative, it just doesn't make any sense. But what ends up happening is that when a person develops these qualities inside themselves, they start to analyze life in a way that it becomes extremely difficult to becoming proactive in life. And it becomes extremely difficult for that person to actually live a meaningful life. And they're constantly procrastinating. They're constantly thinking of things. They're constantly, visualizing things. They're constantly thinking, what if, and what if I did this, and what if I did that. Life becomes such that he or she just doesn't understand how I can move forward. What do I need to do to become a believer that has a meaningful life? The discussion today is practically about how every one of us sitting here today can become amongst those people that has a very, very meaningful life. The truth is, we'll all struggle. The truth. You can't get away from that. The truth is, we will all have our own hardships in life, so let's put that aside for a moment. Some may fall in the hardships, some will have their ups, some will have their downs. One day you will be on top, the next day he will be on the bottom. As long as we are being humble in life and we are being respectful in life, inshaAllah, the idea is that we will continue to grow as an individual. Because our mashayikh, they say that this life that we live in, it's like a wheel, constantly turning. Every day this wheel turns. There's a day that we are on top of this wheel. And the moment we're on top, we start looking down on people. Oh, look at him, he doesn't even wear a hat when he comes for Jummah. Oh, look at him, he's got his shorts on at Jummah prayer. Look at him, why does he do that? It's so wrong. When we're on top, we look down on people in a way that's inappropriate. It's disrespectful. But the Shaykh says that the life is like a wheel. It constantly turns. One day you're on top, and the moment you start looking down on people, the next day you're on the bottom and people are on above you. People respect you more, people respect others more now. And whenever you say something, no one wants to listen to you. Why? Because now you've developed this habit that everything that comes out of that person's mouth is negative. No one wants to talk to this person. As long as this wheel keeps turning and turning and turning, it is the lifespan of this human being's life. The more it turns, the longer this person lives. As long as we let this wheel turn in a way that we are always going to be on top in a format that we never look down on a person, inshaAllah, the idea is that you will leave this world in the state of Iman. That's the idea. But how do we get this feeling inside of our heart out of our heart? How do we get this feeling of negativity out so that we can become a meaningful individual, a meaningful human being? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the antidote in the Quran. He gives us the response in the Quran. That if you feel like your life is the most difficult in this world, and you feel like you don't know how to maneuver around life, Allah gives us the answers in the Quran. Just we have to read it and understand it and implement those very wordings of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts by saying, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. They understand that the remembrance of Allah gives a contentment in the heart that no satisfaction in this world will give you. If you feel that obtaining wealth at a certain degree will give you such a satisfaction, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. It will not happen. Yes, you might feel satisfaction for a moment. You might get happy from achievements, yes, but it's not everlasting. If you feel like once you move into that beautiful home, 5,000 square feet, beautiful yard, and you will obtain happiness, I'm sorry to say, but it's not going to happen. True eternal happiness only comes when a person has attached themselves with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the only way to attach yourself with Allah is to constantly remember Allah. is to constantly put yourself in positions that you are in the state of the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the first thing. And the second thing, if you are in the state of depression, then open another verse of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds all of us, قُمِ اللَّيْلَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا نِصْفَهُ أَوْ انْقُصْ مِنْهُ قَلِيلًا أَوْ زِدْ عَلَيْهِ وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا. That when you have the opportunity at night to talk to Allah in the state of tahajjud, then try your best to talk to Allah. When you have the opportunity to recite the Quran, وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا, based on your capacity, then recite the Quran as much as possible. Again, the idea is based on your capacity. If you can read 2 verses today, alhamdulillah, it's great. It's better than that person that barely reads anything. Consistency is more important in our lives than it is that one day the Shaykh said something on Jummah and mashallah, right after Jummah we become very pious just for that day. No, the idea is to develop consistency in our life. Once you develop that consistency, the inner peace that you're looking for, only then it will come. It takes time. Inner peace takes time to develop inside a human being's heart. We further elaborate and we understand that through the lens of the Quran, there were people in this world that went through far worse than you and I. If you open the lens of the Quran, you will learn that Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam had no control over his family. We all know the story of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam was such a prophet of Allah that he had no control in his life over his family. What his children did to his other son, no control over. Sometimes we feel like this as parents, that we don't have control over our children. But yet, we don't stop there. We continue life. We don't just give up on life. When you open the other verses of the Quran, you learn from the very stories of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, where he had no control over the decisions of his father. His father's made some decisions in life he had no control over. And what happened to him is what happened to him. When you open other parts of the Quran, you will learn through those very stories of Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, where he had no control over his children. That his children began to disobey him and became amongst the disbelievers. Did he have control? He was a prophet of Allah. If he wanted, he could have made it happen that they would have accepted, but yet it was up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we open other verses throughout history in the books of hadith, you will learn that Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun, was a person that was married to Fir'aun, the worst tyrant that this humanity has ever seen. But yet, did she have control? Of course not. When you look at the life of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, where he had to leave his home and flee his house, did he have control over the surroundings of his life? He did not have control. Every one of these stories, we learn something very important. That every one of them, the hardships that these people face, the companions and the prophets of Allah, the hardships that they face around this world was primarily due to other human beings. It was because of the cause of another person. And we learn from these very verses of the Quran that if other people are causing you harm, understand that you have no control over that. And when you have no control over something, then you must become amongst those people to understand that it is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you have no control, you leave it up to Allah. It is like that person that's driving his beautiful Tesla and he's on cruise control and it's driving on its own, and then all of a sudden it has a malfunction. He can't do anything. He just has to sit in the car and hope for God to stop the car. He can't do anything. But yet he sits out of fear, hoping the car will stop. And we've seen many of these cars malfunction to the death of that individual. Just like that, our life, we will face situations, difficulties, where you and I have no control over. We have no capacity to control that. And when you know that you are not the driver of your life, it is up to Allah, then your life will become very easy. Understand that you are not the driver of your life. It is up to Allah to decide how He wants you to live this life. Yes, you have your choices, but at the ultimate decision is up to you. But what the outcome of that decision, it is up to Allah. When you analyze life in this format, regardless of the difficulty, inshaAllah, the idea is the vision and the mentality will change. And that person will slowly become amongst those people that understands that you are no longer the driver, but Allah is the one that drives the forces in this world. When you open several places throughout the Quran, you will understand two very important points. And I will finish off the last 10 minutes by discussing these two very important points. These two very important points are mentioned by one of the scholars of one of our Iman back in the days, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi, rahmatullah alayhi. He mentioned something very profound. And he gives an example of two very important things. He says there is something called manazilul himma and there is manazilul haya. This is the station of himma and the station of haya. What does that mean? Manazilul himma is the station of aspiration. I want you to follow along very carefully. This is very important. There's one thing called manazilul himma, the station of aspiration, and then there is manazilul haya, the station of modesty. What does manazilul himma mean? Manazilul himma is that station that a person wants to figure out what in his life is that object or that purpose that allows him to be a driven individual. If I ask everyone sitting here today, what drives you in life? What is something that allows you to move forward in life? What is something that allows you to wake up every morning? Many of you will give the simple answer, I wake up because I have to, because my parents told me to wake up. I have to go to school. If I don't wake up, I'm going to be in trouble. Many of you will say, if I don't wake up for work, I'll get fired. These are occasions in life that allow us to be aspired for what we do on a daily basis. But understand that every one of us, our aspirations will be very different. Many of you will have aspirations in life that will allow you to go very far. But the question is, what drives those aspirations? When we first started this khutbah, what was the purpose of this khutbah? The purpose is, how can I be a person that lives a meaningful life? How can I live a meaningful life? And based on that very meaning, what will drive me on a daily basis to allow myself to live a meaningful life? What gives me that aspiration? What drives me to, what inspires me on a daily basis? Many of us have beautiful social circles, many friends, many good gatherings. And because of those beautiful gatherings, what happens? We get inspired. Many of us are very prideful in life, and we say to ourselves, you know what? My father looked at me as a person that said, I'll never be anything in life. And because of that person's pride, he lives his whole life driven because he has internal pride that he wants to prove himself to be something. Sometimes people are inspired this way. Sometimes people have a bigger purpose, a bigger action in life. They want to do something. But it's never enough to be inspired. There's one aspect in life that you and I, if we understand this, then every day of our life will be a life that's not only meaningful, but we will live a life that's very inspirational. We will always be driven. We will never want to sit still. We will always want to keep moving. We'll never say to ourselves, you know what, it's okay, let's take a break today. When you look at the life of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, and we'll analyze this through the life of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. When you look at the life of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, you learn something very important. In one occasion it comes that Musa alayhi salatu wasalam was in the center of Egypt and he saw two people fighting. When he saw two people fighting, he wanted to stop the quarrel, the fight. It became so serious that he hit one of them, and one of them passes away. And the other one lives. However, the fight that broke was no longer there. Was this act of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam a act of his that he said to himself that, you know what, from now on I'm not going to do amr bil ma'ruf. I'm no longer going to stop people from doing any wrong. Because now I've done something so bad that it makes no sense for me to do wrong. And I'll give you an example of this. Many times, maybe perhaps some of you might cook something. The men, if you try to cook something and you're excited to cook and you make a dish, you've looked on YouTube and you're excited to make this recipe that you just recently found out, and you're finished cooking, and then all of a sudden you present the dish in front of your family members, and they take the first bite and they don't like it. They're like, and your son's like, Dad, man, you gotta stop cooking. Like, this is not good. Will you be inspired to cook the second day? Probably not. As a matter of fact, most of us will say, you know what, I'm no longer cooking. We're just going to Uber Eats from now on. There's no point. And if that happens to your wife, very similar situation. That we will not be inspired to go forward in life. The same way, things happen to us in life. That when those objectives happen, we lose inspiration to move forward. I know many people that are new Muslims to Islam. They come to the masjid and some uncle looked at them and they got uncomfortable. And because of that discomfort, they stopped coming to the masjid. Forget reverts, I'm talking about regular people, young people that stopped coming to the masjid because they got uncomfortable because of a uncle looking at him a certain way, or an auntie looking at her a certain way. Though they were looking at him in a very normal fashion because that's how the uncle acts. It's fine. But sometimes these circumstances that happen to us in our life, we lose motivation to move forward. So the question is, when Musa alayhi salatu wasalam hit that person, did Musa alayhi salatu wasalam just give up in life? No, he never gave up. As a matter of fact, no motivation was lost. But in return, what did he do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the answer of this in the Quran. And He says that Musa alayhi salatu wasalam secretly, he made dua to Allah. And that dua was, رَبِّ إِنِّي ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي فَاغْفِرْ لِي فَغَفَرَ لَهُ إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ. Oh Allah, I made a very bad mistake, oh Allah. Forgive me of my mistake. I want you to forgive me, Ya Allah. I will do my best to never commit this again. Understand that he connected directly with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you're not motivated to move forward in life, and you don't know what can drive you, understand that motivation will come when you attach yourself with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the first thing. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam further elaborates, and he further moves on with his life. That the first thing that allowed Musa alayhi salatu wasalam to live an inspirational life for himself, the first thing was what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was the first thing. This is why you learn from the story of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, in his mission to spread the deen, he said, إِنَّنِي أَنَا اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا فَاعْبُدْنِي وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِي. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Musa, I am Allah, there is no deity but Allah, I am the only God to you, فَاعْبُدْنِي, you should worship me, وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِي, and perform the prayers and remember me as much as you can. So what was the inspiration for Musa? Allah himself. That was the first thing. The second thing that inspired Musa to keep going on his journey of his path. إِنَّ السَّاعَةَ آتِيَةٌ أَكَادُ أُخْفِيهَا لِتُجْزَى كُلَّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا تَسْعَى. Allah says in the Quran that indeed the hour is about to come. Allah tells Musa, the hour is about to come, and I want you to keep things very, very in a manner that you will be recompensated with the things that you've done in this world. You will get reward for the hardships that you endure. So the second thing that allowed Musa alayhi salatu wasalam to live a motivated life was the thought of knowing that the hereafter will come one day. So this, my brothers and sisters, this first portion of this discussion is called Manazilul Himma. That state of abode is for us to understand that we have to live a meaningful life. And then there is Manazilul Haya, unfortunately due to lack of time. Inshallah, in a future khutbah we will further stop this, finish this discussion, inshaAllah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us and enable us to become amongst those people that understand what it means to live a meaningful life. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to become amongst those people that understand the true importance of our brothers and sisters of Gaza. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us and enable us to understand the importance of realizing what our brothers and sisters are going through in Sudan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to become amongst those people that understand what is happening in every part of the Muslim Ummah, in every part of this world, and make us amongst those people that has a heart for those people, inshaAllah. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Azim wa nafa'ni wa iyyakum bil ayati wal dhikr al-hakim wa qulu qawli hadha astaghfirullah wa lakum wa li sa'iril muslimin fastaghfiru innahu al-ghafurur rahim.